welcome to Commissioner's Corner for April of 2022. I'm Scott Margo, joined by all three of your county commissioners, Elizabeth Lawrence, Tamar Pogue, and Josh Blanchard. Thanks everybody for being here. We're going to start off with, again, the silly season is still ongoing. That is the legislative session in the state of Colorado. And so lots and lots of activity going on at the state. And our county commissioners have been very involved. Lots of testimony, lots of activity, trying to make sure that we're protecting the interests of Summit County residents. And so we're going to start off with behavioral health. And so, Tamara, you've taken a large role with regards to that issue. So share what's going on there.
Well, the biggest bill this session continues to be the creation of the new Behavioral Health Authority or Administration. That is a bill that really consolidates all of the state's behavioral health funding, with the exception of Medicaid, into one department. It appoints a new commissioner. Dr. Medlock is our new commissioner of behavioral health in Colorado. And it does a lot of other things, like create more transparency and accountability in terms of funding. It creates a universal contract, which has actual outcomes attached to the dollars that will fund behavioral health providers moving forward. It also creates a new idea called the safety net care system, which moves us sort of away from a single point of behavioral health delivery into a much broader model that I think will do a far better job of serving Summit County. So that bill is working its way through the legislature. It got out of its first committee a couple of weeks ago now with bipartisan support, which is really exciting. There are a couple of other bills out there that are also a fairly big deal. ARPA dollars for behavioral health that for the first time counties will actually be able to access, so that's really important. 106, which really focuses on transparency and accountability of the whole system, which is also really important. And then the last bill is some changes to our current crisis system to make sure that youth in particular can be better served. So lots of good stuff going on in the behavioral health space.
Great. And again, a very sort of significant transformation of how that system is structured. Another one, early childhood, is also undergoing a transformation. And so, Elizabeth, you want to talk a little bit about that one?
Yes. Another new department. It's a pretty big deal. New departments don't come along very often at the state, especially cabinet level positions, but this is another one. The Office of Early Childhood, or Department of Early Childhood. I think that's still TBD what it's called. But this is going to take a lot of existing programs in Health and Human Services and move it over into a brand new office, while it also is going to do new things and create new processes and programs, and one of which is universal pre-K across Colorado. This is something we already have in Summit County, which we're pleased about. But this is going to allow us to leverage our dollars even further. So all 4-year-olds in Colorado will be eligible for 10 hours a week of universal pre-K. That's not a lot, but it's a good start. And it helps that affordability piece. As we know, childcare is expensive. It's not a money-making business whatsoever, but this is to make sure that kids across Colorado are ready to go to kindergarten when it's time, and really help provide, I think, a lot of the tools that they need, these little kids, but also put systems in place to make sure that it's equitable across the state, that whether you're in rural Colorado and you currently have no preschool, to whether you're in an urban area and there's lots of options, this hopes to really streamline the system, make it easier for parents, kind of a one-stop shop. Now, of course, the devil's always in the details. There's a lot of details in this one because you're taking some old stuff, moving it to a new place, as well as setting up this new department. And similar to what Tamara was talking about with behavioral health, I mean, it's creating something new, which is great and we love it, but it's just making sure that that translates over in the most efficient way possible.
Sure, great.
And so there's some deadlines associated with that in 2023. So universal pre-K, the system needs to be planned by the end of this year, and then it will be eligible for kids starting next year.
Great, great. Any comments with regards to early childhood?
No, but I do think the Department of Early Childhood wins the award for longest piece of legislation this session.
Yeah, I think it's over 500 pages now, and it is not done. So it is certainly a big one.
Wow. Well, like you said, not often that these sorts of departments and positions are created within the state. So,
right. And how lucky
times.
that Summit County got to be a part of both of them.
Yeah, that's great.
And this is transformational for so many kids across the state. And it's going to have impact on Summit County kids as well.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Sure. Josh, your turn. You've testified on a couple of things recently, safe crossings or safe passages, as well as baby trees, as we like to call it. So why don't you talk a little bit about those couple items?
Well, so many bills this session. Obviously, health and human services, education, early childhood education is important, but we're also looking at things like sustainability, conservation, baby trees, wildfire. So this latest bill was a fire mitigation bill in terms of investing state dollars that were for fire mitigation into really what is the CSU seedling nursery that allows us to take the baby trees after a fire has hit the landscape and replant those. It's so important that we put in vegetation that's been grown at altitude that's appropriate. And this really helps with protecting not only the forests, bringing them back more quickly and appropriately, but also with our watersheds as those areas get completely, devastated by the fires. And so that's been a feel-good piece of legislation that's allowing us to again take those federal dollars for wildfire and reinvest them in programs that really support communities. Summit County will be able to take advantage of that as well. And then as far as the safe passages go, this is the Colorado Wildlife Safe Passages Bill. Our own Representative McCluskey was a part of that. And if you've ever been sort of the north part of Summit County in between, just after the Grand County line, you've seen a couple of these safe passages, overpassages and underpassages, which have allowed for wildlife crossings. Folks may be surprised or maybe not surprised. We were talking about it this morning that every year about 4,000 wildlife collisions take place in the state of Colorado. Those are the ones that are reported. I think it's more like 12,000. And this, really impacts, it's $80 million in damages in terms of, vehicles, collisions, response, all of the costs associated with that. And these types of structures, like the ones on just over the north end of the county, have mitigated those by 92%. And so this takes, again, dollars, transportation dollars, and reinvest them smartly in areas where these types of collisions occur. And so this is another feel-good bill, especially for folks who are traveling in these areas where the animals really migrate.
Yeah, and feel good for the animals as well.
And feel good for the animals.
So there you go. All right, we want to jump to housing, which of course we have long recognized as the top issue within Summit County. Lots of activity around housing. Tamara, you've been a part of the Transformational task force, and so talk a little bit about that.
So right now the legislature has put the recommendations from the Affordable Housing Task Force and the subpanel into 4 different bills. So just to recap, the task force was tasked with making recommendations around the spending of $500 million, and now that money will get allocated in 4 different ways, and those bills are all working their way through the legislature right now. The 2 that I think are most exciting are 1304 and 159. 1304 is a grant fund for local governments, just like Summit County, and 159 is a revolving loan fund. What is most exciting about those 2 bills is that there is finally recognition that those of us in rural resort communities just have different standards and different needs in terms of what needs to be built. And so right now, in 1304, there's a cap for rural housing on 170% AMI, so most of our middle income folks in Summit County would actually be able to have housing that Summit County could access state funds to build. So that's really exciting. We're still working on the details of 159, but preliminarily it looks like some of the same requirements will also be put into that bill. Summit County has long struggled to be able to access state funding for any of our projects because of those AMI caps. And I think this is the first time the state has really recognized that barrier and made a significant commitment to helping our community as we move forward. And I do just want to make a special thanks to Representative Roberts, our neighbor in Eagle County. He has been an absolute champion in the state for helping folks on the Front Range really understand the significant barriers and struggles we have up here. The 2 other bills, one is a transformational housing bill that will actually fund or incentivize businesses that want to start building modular housing across the state, so actually those factories, which is really exciting. exciting. As we all know, Fading West in Buena Vista has just opened, and the hope is that other businesses might be able to use these funds to open as well. And then the last one are increased mobile home protections and funding for residents who want to buy their mobile home park. So as we all know, we've really struggled with this in Silverthorne most recently, and so this would create some additional protections for residents like those across the state. So lots of good work in the housing space right now.
Great. Last one that we wanted to cover today was lodging tax. Elizabeth, you've been a proponent for that from the beginning and helped to push that thing along. So talk a little bit about that.
So lodging tax, I think we've talked about it here before, but it would allow counties to have a 2% lodging tax. 90% of that 2% would go towards, I would say, workforce support such as housing, childcare, trail improvements, all things related to that. Focusing on livability and how we support our workforce, as well as continuing to enhance the experience for our visitors. And then the remaining 10% of that needs to be on marketing and advertising. Here in Summit County, I think we would really use that on education marketing to our tourists, to our guests. This is how we recycle. This is how you get on the bus. This is how you go to this trailhead, et cetera, those sort of things. But that did pass. It was signed into law by the governor about a week and a half ago. Huge thanks to Rep. Roberts over from Eagle County, who championed this bill from the beginning. This had a rocky start in the past. I was told it cannot be done, so I found someone equally as crazy, Rep. Roberts, to say that he would do it. And sure enough, so thanks to that support, and it passed. It's going to go through. And the next steps for any counties that want to take advantage of this, they then have to go to their voters. That's the biggest thing. It's not done. This has to be voter approved, and so we'll see that across, I think, different areas, especially our resort areas that maybe haven't had this lodging tax before. Look into that. So it might happen here in Summit County.
Great. Again, great work to all three of you for everything that you guys are doing at the state level, again, to ensure that the needs of the community here in Summit County are being met. So, great. All right, we'll take a quick break and then we'll be right back.